Jim Benson here, and it is episode 28 of the Weekly Jim. Weekly. This episode is all about starting small, about introducing change in a small way that people can deal with, and how we build systems of change in a way that's not overwhelming for people, but gives them the right amount of clarity so they actually know what to do, right? So in our Finding Solutions class, as part of the Modus Institute subscription, there is a module called Gembas in Knowledge Work. So basically, in knowledge work, how do we see the work that's happening? Since most of the work's happening in our heads, it's easy to lose track of what we're doing, what other people are doing, what's been asked for, what the victory conditions are for work, what a failure state for work might be, what work has been started but not finished, all sorts of things that cry out for a visual system so that we can see what's going on and do the right work at the right time in the right way, or from a personal standpoint, know where we as professionals should and could act. You know, when can we help? When can we take work off of somebody else's plate? When can we lend some expertise? So Jeffrey, about this particular unit, says basically, he says all this stuff is going on in our teams. And so with so much stuff, it seems like going to a Gemba should start small and build out, right? So you want to start the Gemba small with just a few visualizations and then build out from that so that people aren't overwhelmed with the change. And that is all well and good. Everyone has a plan until Mike Tyson, blah, blah, blah. So when we talk about this, or when I responded to Jeffrey, when I responded to Jeffrey, I said, don't start so small that people don't know what's going on. So what will happen is we end up with this constant kind of recurring failure state where people will go out, they'll put up a Kanban and they'll say, this is the beginning of our Gemba. This is the beginning of our Obeya. And your beginning of your Obeya has to begin meeting the needs of the people who are in the Obeya, right? So when you have your visualizations set up, if you go in and you say, well, I'm just going to have a Kanban, I'm going to keep it simple and I'm just going to have a Kanban. Well, good for you. What's going to happen then is you're going to give people the information you think they need, but maybe not the information that they actually need. So different teams need different information at different times. Sometimes, and almost always, that involves a Kanban where you want to see the work that's coming up, the work you're doing, the work you're completed, so you get an idea of flow and you can see who's doing what. But other times, you need to see a problem that's currently in flight, that's being solved, that's stopping all of the work. You might need to see certain metrics on a regular basis just to know that you're either doing a good job or the things that other people are going to come criticize you for are taken care of, right? So you have some sort of operating need, and those needs need to be visualized along with the Kanban. This is why an Obeya must include a Kanban, but shouldn't be limited to one. Because the needs of the team usually outweigh the capacity or the capability of one visualization to tell them what to do. So we'll take a rather difficult example here. This is the redeployment strategy for the Coney Island Hospital in New York. Now the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Hospital in Brooklyn. And they had two major transitions while building this hospital. The first was COVID arrives. The second was COVID leaves. And both of them they had to react to. They're like, oh my God, what do we do? So this is the first one for COVID is, who needs to know what and when to keep this group operating, building a mission critical hospital in the middle of a pandemic with strong oversight and regulations about how many people can be on site, how to use social distance, how do you maintain safety, blah, 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 blah. Because lots of things in construction require you to be close to other people. You're putting something up, one person has to hold it, the other person is, drilling it, into place or, fastening it or whatever. You can't, 6 feet might not be a thing. So how does that work? These things needed visualization, not just in this, but in their Obeya. So let's take a look here at some Obeyas. Here's a Kanban. And this is what you might consider to be a normal, everyday, ordinary Kanban. And it's grainy and filtered out to protect the innocent, of course. But here you have your normal flow of stuff that's being done by people, stuff that's coming up, stuff that needs to be deployed, and some stuff that's done. This is their general workflow. The different teams have different work in different swim lanes, and it's getting done. But down here, you have a different swim lane of work that is being prepared for the team. And then down here, you have different work, different tasks that's just happening with their engineering manager. So even in this simple Kanban, we actually have at least 5 different visualizations happening, 5 different conversations happening. And understanding that those conversations need to be respected and met is important, because if it's not, you're going to put up a board. It's just going to say ready, doing, done, or it's going to be like super simple. And people's needs, information needs, aren't going to be met. All they're doing is saying, I am done, I am doing. Well, that's helpful, because before you didn't know that, but it's not enough. It's not enough. So then you end up with other boards like this one, which is from a hospital, not a hospital, a restaurant, a legal seafoods restaurant actually, in Boston, outside of Boston. And this one is measuring, yes, it's work that looks Kanban-y, but most of this work that's on all of these sections of this board was work that happened throughout the day of operating a restaurant, but no one was actually assigned that work ever. It was the responsibility of everyone. So what would happen is, each of these things are like, you will refill the bus stand, you will make sure that the salt and pepper shakers are full, you will make sure that the napkins are folded, and blah, 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 blah. That the ice is stocked and everything. That what happened was no one did those things until the manager came and said, hey, there's no straws in the bus stand, go get some straws. And so that now became a 2-person job, where the person who was asking was annoyed that it had to be done. The person who was doing it was annoyed because they were being asked. But now all these things are just sitting up here ready to do at the beginning of this day. And then over the course of the day, when people have time, they just make sure that these footballs are moved to the end of the stadium, right? Simple, but a very different type of visualization, a very different type of solution. Down here, these are things that they're called coaches plays, but they're things that the managers are technically responsible for. These are things that happen weekly. These green things down here are things that happen daily. But truthfully, almost anyone can do these things. So when it's kind of light, people would go over and they would move these. And weirdly enough, when they first set this board up, they're like, no one's ever going to do that. But they did. And they keep doing it. So when they knew that they could help, they helped. When they didn't know they could help, they assumed someone else was doing it. Right? So we have this visualization here that is meeting the needs of the group. So then, your groups, we'll go back to Turner again. Seems like everything is behind everything else today. This is going to be a nightmare to edit. Here we are at Turner again. And here we have a bunch of stickies up here that are needed temporally. These are things that need to be done. This is a backlog of stuff that's coming up. This is another temporal thing where you have milestones that are coming up. So these are tasks, these are milestones. And you can see that even though these things aren't going to be done for a couple of months, they already are blocked with these red stickies. That's important because every red sticky you see isn't just blocked. It is a conversation between people. So these conversations are starting, this work is starting even before it enters the Kanban itself, which is over here, right? So this is a procurement Kanban, which is handling just the purchases, the buys for this particular project, but over here is the work that people are doing on a daily basis. Over here is work that is being done, like these might be project level things, and over here there are tasks. So they set up their own conversations about different types of work that needed to be tracked, but needed to be understood by everybody in the group. So if they were to set up just a ready, doing, done Kanban at the beginning of this project, the needs of the group wouldn't have been met and no one would have used the system. So this is the punchline. This is the final outcome of this video. This is why you've sat here for 11 minutes. When you are building any system, visual, social, structural, or otherwise, ask yourself and the people who are going to be using it, what do you need to do and what do you need to know in order to do it? Then build the system to provide that information in real time. Then when people go to make well-informed decisions, they will need to go to this space. It's that simple. The reason that Kanbans fail, the reason that Agile fails, the reason that Lean fails is because we're not communicating the right information to the right people at the right time.